Today's topic is the Throw It Out There Thursday topic, which means your pick. You get to choose. And so what I did is, because I essentially am doing this for 6 weeks, right? So I have a minimum of 30 topics I have to come up with, and I'm not that creative, but I am creative, but not on that. So what I've done is I threw out 2 posts, one on Facebook, one on LinkedIn, and only one person responded publicly and one person sent me a note privately with some topic ideas. So Amanda, you win the topic. I saw it a little bit ago, but I haven't had a chance to give it any thought yet. So here we go. How to regroup after a difficult situation. For example, a harsh call from a client or arguing with your child re-online learning. And I put a love on that comment because I have had so many friends who have just told me that it is not easy doing this whole online learning, and the arguments are quite significant. So, all the power to you for making that happen. All right, so let's think about this. How do we reset? Because that's essentially what we're doing. And what I think is so important about asking this question is this, is when something goes wrong. Like, I don't know, I wrote an article a long time ago about how a bad day doesn't need to be a bad day. And because often what will happen is you hear that saying, get out on the wrong side of the bed. And then, you run out of toothpaste and you spill coffee on your blouse. And then you get into a traffic jam and then you forget your keys and then you forget your coffee in the car. And it's just like everything is an independent issue or circumstance, but we emotionally roll all of the frustration from the last one into the next one. And then all of a sudden it becomes this hugely bad day. When in actual fact, if we look at everything compartmentalized and go, okay, I spilled coffee on my shirt, and we process that really quickly, because that doesn't require a lot of our emotional, I don't want to say baggage or contribution, then that issue is compartmentalized and it's done. It's gone. So we no longer think about it. We don't talk about it. We don't do anything. We don't actually run the frustration and annoyance of A to compound into the frustration and annoyance of B and C and D and so on. And so how do we actually do this? So I'm just going to riff off the top of my head, so I won't have necessarily an order of how this might happen, but I'll just think through some of the other content that I've done over the years. So the first piece is when we're in the middle of a confrontation of sorts, squeeze your butt cheeks. Now, you never know what's going to come out on Throw It Out There Thursday. But here's the thing. Let me give that some context. It's actually the advice I give people when they're about to cry, like if they're on camera or in a speech or something, squeeze your butt cheeks. You can't cry when you're focusing on squeezing your butt cheeks. So part of it is when we're in the heat of the moment. So it could be an argument with somebody in our family, or if we are, a customer who's coming at us and they're really upset about something. And we do something physically. Now it could be, pinch your fingers together. It could be put the tongue on the roof of your mouth. It could be squeeze your butt cheeks. It could be, crinkle your toes, whatever the thing is that works for you. Because we want to pull ourselves out of the momentum of the emotion of frustration. And so when we notice that's happening, do something physical that will ground you, even though you're still in it, but it will remind you that just because something is going wrong doesn't mean you need to emotionally react and give it the same level of anger that maybe somebody else is giving it. Okay, so I think in the middle of it, you want to figure out, how can I disconnect a bit from this so I don't take it on emotionally and physically, etc. So squeeze your butt cheeks. Number one, thinking when you're in it. Second thing is with that actual heated moment, especially with clients, I'm talking to people a lot about this, is there are a lot of people who are struggling to emotionally regulate in today's environment. They're scared, Amanda, even in the insurance world, right? Maybe they're getting their car repossessed or they're doing something. And so they don't know how to process that emotionally, because remember, in our lives, we've sort of been taught to suck it up, buttercup, right? And not we don't necessarily always have these tools to process and say, I'm scared. And therefore, I'm being angry and an asshole to the person who's on the phone or at the counter or whatever. So sometimes perspective of just because they're angry and they're being a jerk to you does not mean that you need to own that emotion. And so part of this is putting up those barriers, right? Like emotional barriers, so that you're not taking on somebody else's inability to emotionally regulate. And so even the conversation in your head, yes, of course, you're listening and you're engrossed and you're really, being thoughtful about how you're interacting, but, doing the squeezing and thinking, okay, this person is really struggling to emotionally regulate and they're taking it out on me, and that's not about me. Okay. So that's part of it. The schooling thing, I mean, that's a whole other topic about expectations and what's reasonable and what's not. And, are you fighting a fight that you just can't win, and therefore you've got to change the tactic? One of my friends, I don't know if she's watching right now, but if she is, she'll probably throw something in the, she might watch the replay, but, we're talking about the fact that the nagging hasn't worked. So if you getting angry and nagging is not working, then stop doing that and let's find a different tactic that will. Because as they say, that definition of insanity is doing things over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So we've got the physical trigger while you're in it. So far I've talked about when you're in it to try to minimize the impact of a really difficult situation when you get out of it. So now here's what we do. We get out of it, hang up the phone, whatever the case may be. And the answer generally might be to get really inflamed and angry and feel that and just move on to the next task because you're exceptionally busy. And I'm going to challenge you in that moment to process exactly what's happened. So hang up the phone, feel the feels, and we need to reset. We can't reset and stop that momentum from A to B to C to D and taking the emotional annoyance of each situation into the next. If we don't stop after A and go, okay, what just happened? What am I feeling? So name the emotion, because that is critical to process it. Don't fight that emotion. Like, I'm really angry. Feel anger without doing anything. Just sit there and go, how does anger feel for me? Feels like my blood is boiling. It feels like I'm clenching everywhere. Okay. And go into it. And it's really interesting because when we actually feel the fullness of an emotion and name it and observe how the emotion is reacting in our body, the emotion will flow. And emotions, you think about it as energy in motion. And so giving it that space and that time to do this, then we got to rationalize it as well, right? So this person is not emotionally regulating, or they're upset, they're scared, they are taking it out on me, they're going through a breakup, whatever the case may be, right? And not excusing the behavior, but analyzing and knowing the behavior is not necessarily about you, right? And so actually feeling that and resetting. Then I'm going to challenge you to feel that feeling and then go into a moment of gratitude and say, okay, what was the silver lining out of that potentially, right? What can I do to make it better? Do I need to do anything? Do I need to assess? And actually, this would be a great situation for my rapid fire resilience rundown, which is my big online program, my big corporate program, which I think I should probably write a book about. I thought about that the other day. Apparently that is a very cold glass of water that it is sweating and actually I think I just spilled some. Never mind when I poured it. Anyway, let me know if you want me to write that book, because I think that would be helpful. It's like a critical thinking checklist that you go through when everything's really stressed. Anyway, I digress. So where was I? So to go into silver lining thinking, also go into owning the responsibility. What would I do differently next time? We never want to have a challenge that goes unwasted in terms of our learning. Feeling the feels, and then going into gratitude to shift your energy. I think that's the absolute best way. And then the other best way that I do a lot is I will Recognize this has got me off kilter. I'm not loving it. I need a change of juju. And you know how I am about the juju. Got to get the juju going in the right direction. And that's where AirPods, by the way, which I love, but are losing power way too quickly. I've already charged them twice today. So it's going to be time soon for a new pair of AirPods. Put those on, put on your favorite dance music, do jumping jacks, do squats, do whatever makes you good. Do a minute of plank on the ground to change the energy. So if you've got a really bad call that's gone on and, oh, you know what I just realized? Sorry, bad time to realize, is that I totally am going to have to change the title because I forgot to change the title. First world problems here, folks. I am not repeating yesterday's topic. So I hope that works. So what was I saying? So change the juju, but you need that pause so you don't roll momentum of frustration from A to B to C to D, because then by the time we get to F, right, like we're just like the day is done. We're just pissed. And so instead recognize A didn't go right. I got to reset. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to assess my behavior, the other person's behavior, try to rationalize it so you know that it's not about you, not to make it okay, but so that you don't take it on like I did something wrong, and then do something to reset your energy. So gratitude and movement would be the two I would use. And the one thing I would caution against, remember, this is a riff off the top of my head, so I might have other things to caution against. But I think sometimes when we get upset, if we hang up the phone with something, the way that we process is by calling somebody and complaining about it and going, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe. And sometimes we need to vent, and that can be really healthy. But if we share it with someone else, sometimes, not all the time, I've found that makes it harder to deal with something because I'm giving more credit and I'm giving it more mental and emotional capacity, like stealing just a little bit more than it really needs to steal, right? Depending if it's a really big deal, like if it's a client that you're going to lose, then maybe you got to talk to somebody. But if it's just a thing that went wrong and was annoying, I'd really challenge you to be able to, on your own, be able to validate it. Validate your feelings, your emotion, and getting, you know what I mean? There we are. Okay, Greg. All right. Tell me your words of wisdom today. By the way, if people are on LinkedIn, they can write comments and I'm going to bring them up like this. Unless you tell me don't do that, but then just send me a message directly. And if you're on Facebook, I'm trying to keep an eye out for comments because I don't know how to pull them up on Restream. And yeah, awesome to have you all here. So thank you. All right, let's go back to this. Agreed about venting. We must be intentional on what we choose to feed energy into. Yes, perhaps a future topic could be advice on how to set and honor your boundaries so you can get that pause. Many days are feeling perpetually and without respite in our fast-paced world. Yes, absolutely. But that's where we get the A, the B, the C, the D. And here would be my argument about time on this issue is if we bring the emotional frustration from A into B, into C, into D, by the time we get to E and F, everything is going to take longer. Our day is going to be off. Our juju is going to be off. And I'm talking this reset when you get good at it. Because I have it too, right? I think I maybe told you one day when I had this real estate experience. Greg, I think that was the day when we had, we first talked about real estate. And of course, now I've decided to move to the lake and I don't need a place anymore. Oh, that's a big bomb, by the way. Just dropping that, just casually sliding it in there for anybody who's watching. I'll make that announcement later. Anyway, it was such an energy clash with this person. Like it was just not meant to be. And I could have seen that really probably 5 years ago. That would have thrown me off for several hours. And I was really annoyed and I was revved up, that revvy kind of feeling. And I did exactly this, right? I thought about what's really happening. I thought about my reaction and how I could have been better. I thought about how grateful I was that, I'm trying to find a place to live and I'm not a homeless or what. I have those resources to be able to do that. So I went into a place of gratitude. I also went in, and we've talked about this in other shows, of that silver lining thinking and having faith that the dots are connecting moving forward, because hindsight's always 20/20. So we know. So then I went into this, oh my gosh, I probably got saved from a place that's infested, who knows, right? Whatever, like just make up a good story. And then I did some juju reset around grabbing a song. And here's the thing, if you don't have 3 minutes for your favorite song to shift your juju before you go into the next challenge, we have a bigger problem with productivity and your time management. And yes, boundaries is a big one. But the time you spend to reset will actually be, what's the word I would say, like exponential in its power of what it will do for you. That's the way I'd look at it. So 1 minute to 3 minutes for a reset after you hang up the phone. And it's that processing, the thinking, the vibe change. And then you go to the next one. And then when you get to the next one, if you happen to notice that you're coming to that next call from a place of anger, then you just got to process that too, right? You could recognize it. So one thing with me is I notice a lot when my pain is really high, I have to go through this sort of reset thing. And because I will take that physical, at least I used to do this a lot, I will take that physical sensation that is like a knife twisting into my body, right? And when you have that grinding now for 14 and a half years? No, that's how long I've been in business. March 5th, 2007, whenever that was. I got to tell you, that can wreak havoc on your emotional state. And the underlying, when you've got that, the underlying emotion can be anger, right? Because that frustration matches anger, that vibe. And so if I go into a meeting and I'm feeling angry because my body is screaming at me, what I've found is being so self-aware. That's why I'm like all in on self-awareness, right? Being so self-aware that I can recognize, this is what I want for you too. I can recognize and articulate, I'm in so much pain that my underlying feeling is anger. And as such, that makes me more vulnerable to show up in this meeting not at my best self. And so as I go through the meeting, I'll be like, am I speaking from a place of pain-induced anger? I will coin that. Yes, I will, all day long. Coin that phrase, pangry. One day I was going to write that book. And I actually, sorry, I'm digressing here on my little storyline. I actually mapped it all out. Like the entire pangry book is done. I can't find the map. Can't find it. I can find 4 Post-it notes of the 100 and some Post-it notes. So that leads me to believe now is not the time to write the book on how to be successful and live your life despite your physical pain. Anyway, so that's what I'm talking about. But if we can just name the emotion. So if you're annoyed by this situation and then you go to this situation and you're feeling revved up and you're showing up from a place of angry, just even in the back of your mind going, oh, wait a second, I haven't processed exercise A yet, then that will help you have perspective so you can shift how you show up in section B. So for those of you, I will go back and I will change the topic area to match the one that Amanda, thank you so much for showing up, all of your sharing, and throwing out a topic area, which I think was really good to have a conversation about. I hope that you got something out of that because, of course, it's just riffing. I didn't have anything planned in advance, but this is what we'll do every Thursday. So hopefully there are other people who have ideas for topics. Greg talked about boundaries, and maybe we talk about that one. Very well put. It's like a reboot for our internal operating system. Yes. I swear, one day I'm going to make Greg in charge of all of my marketing and my phrases. Oh, Rod, you're so right. Anger is like it, and it can consume you, right? Like and it'll overshadow everything. It's these most powerful emotions of our life: grief, anger, fear. If we don't understand that they're happening and we don't recognize and aren't self-aware about how they feel and allowing them to process in a healthy way, then they become the lens through which we operate in the world. So if you're angry and somebody cut you off in traffic, instead of going, oh, ha, go on, you may have an anger. You might be like, right? A little bit more like road rage. But that is because those powerful emotions can overtake everything. And what I want people to do is not be overtaken by those powerful emotions. We want the powerful emotion to apply to the thing that it applies to. And I know that sounds maybe really difficult to do. And I've just spent so many years trying to figure out how to do it. Right. And in so many ways, that pain situation for me was a blessing because it forced me to figure out, okay, is my emotion right now tied to what? The circumstance that I'm facing or the pain that I'm feeling? And very often the pain would overshadow and be the lens through which I was operating and approaching this scenario, like X, whatever this is over there. So incredibly important. But what I will do is I will change the title of this live for the lockdown lift up. And I will be sure it reflects what we actually spoke about, which is how do you reset from a difficult situation so you don't take it into the next situation. I'm going to have to come up with something a little catchier than that feels a little long-winded for a title of a video. So I hope that helped. I love it. I like this riffing. I love it every day. It makes me have to get, I came home, I had to go out today and I came home at, I think it was 3:12, walked in the door and then hopped on the LinkedIn Live. So it's kind of fun. I love it. Rod, you got to go to the source of the anger to figure out how to do it right. Maybe we should do a talk on, let's do a riff on anger. Let's do a riff on those powerful emotions another day. So we'll do that maybe Monday or Tuesday, and boundaries another day. I'm going to write these down. Boundaries and processing the most powerful emotions. Ooh, I like that. Okay. Maybe one day I'll do one on pain too. Gosh, we're going to get through this lockdown, folks. We're going to get through this lockdown. I'm going to have a lockdown lift up every day. And then you know what we'll have to figure out? What will I do after that? Maybe I'll keep going. I don't know. Anyway, listen, I'm so grateful to have all of you here. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being part of this. I love when you show up live and I love it when you watch the replays. So we're good. Thank you. Have the best day. And I will see you tomorrow for wild card topic, which will come out of one of my books. So you got to tell me which book we want it to come out of. So you've got to go 1 through, let's see, we're going to go, because it's got to be a physical book. So choose 1 to 5. 5 physical books. In fairness, one of them's in Mandarin. 1 to 4. That'll work. And then I will, we can try to figure out how to do the ebooks, but I don't think so. I think we'll just use the hard copy. So 1 to 4. Pick a number, any number, and I'll wild card it. We'll do that at the beginning of tomorrow. Anyway, rambling on a little long. Guess I'm just in the mood to chat, but I have things to do, people to see, places to go. Oh, wait. No, I don't, because we're on lockdown. And this has been Thursday's Lockdown Lift Up. Have the best day.